Kelly Roach, thank you so much for joining me today.
I am so pumped to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, me too. I just want to give a shout out to my friend Nikki Elledge Brown because Nikki, if you're listening to this, you were voxing me, and I'm like, this book that you love. I was like, I'm having Kelly on. You are so beloved, Kelly. You're doing such incredible work in this world. Your energy is so lit up. And I want to go back before we get into it because you yourself have had like a pretty interesting journey. You were a former NFL cheerleader,
Yeah.
turned Fortune 500 executive, $1 million business mogul, coaching entrepreneurs. Just give us a little bit of that backstory, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of what you teach.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so I grew up in an awesome family, crazy, mad chaos, 5 kids. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked for like a Catholic nonprofit. So we were like super poor. But they loved us a lot and I had a very good childhood. But I got no like all the time growing up. And like as soon as I turned working age, I was like, I'm just not going to get no anymore. Like I was kind of done with that. So, since I was like able to legally work, I think I've had my friends all joke. They're like, you have had 5 jobs, like since the day we met you. Like I was like a gatekeeper and a mother's helper and doing chores around the neighborhood
Right.
and waitressing and like, whatever. So, it's just been a crazy journey of, just turning no's in life into yes. And that's really what I think work ethic and determination and selling can do for really anybody that wants to. And so for me, when I got old enough to work, I was always kind of like, be the best that you can be in whatever you do. When I joined Fortune 500, I was promoted 7 times in 8 years. I was literally the first one in, the last one out every single day, full hair and makeup, full suit. I was like 21. Everybody was like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I mean business, right? So
Yeah.
it's just, it's just been a fun journey. And I always promised myself that, when I was responsible for my own financial situation, that I was never going to have to worry about money again. And so I set out to do that. And then once I felt like I had accomplished that for myself, I just made it my life's work. Like that is my life's work, to help other people to build businesses that allow them to never have to worry about, their financial situation again. And so, everything that I do, in my business, it's just that this is my legacy. It's, it's why I'm here. It's my purpose. I like can't turn it off.
Yeah. So tell people what it is you do. I actually think the best way to do that might be to start with one of your first book, Unstoppable 9 Principles for Unlimited Success in Business and Life, because it sort of pulls together what you learned being such a success in business. And now I believe that what you're doing, you have programs, you mentor and teach. You teach
Yeah.
people how to run a business, correct?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
above all else, I'm a strategist. I'm a business growth strategist. So I teach people how to create the fastest, most efficient way to create financial freedom doing what they love, in their business. And, I almost don't like to say doing what you love because I think that comes off a little bit soft. Like I run my business like a Fortune 500 firm. I'm super aggressive. I train my employees like they're athletes. I train my clients like they're athletes. But I do think it's really, really important that, the thing that you spend the vast majority of your waking hours doing that you absolutely love, especially with the amount of energy that will be required to make it successful. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, starting with the first book, I always say, I was kind of the person that I feel like I ran up a mountain as fast and as hard as I possibly could. And then I kind of got to the top of the mountain. I was like, I don't think that was really the mountain I wanted to climb. Like, I'm not so excited about this mountain. So I always say, like in the book, what I did was I kind of, in corporate, I really learned business. Like I learned business inside and out. Like I am a ninja at growing business. I'm a ninja at leading people, but I had to sacrifice, everything in order to accomplish that success. And I always say I kind of did it first the wrong way, and then I learned how to do it the right way.
Sure.
I never dreamed of being an entrepreneur. I never woke up and was like, I want to be my own boss. I want to be a business owner. That wasn't really my goal. I just learned through experience that if I wanted to bring together a life that I loved and the business and financial success, that I was going to have to go create that for myself. I wasn't going to go get a job where someone was going to like hand that to me and be like, oh, here you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Wanted
how that
that
evolved.
freedom.
Yeah.
What were you, first quick question, what were you doing in corporate? What kind of business were you involved in?
Yeah, so I worked for the number one staffing firm in the world. It's one of the most aggressive, hardest industries out there, super high turnover, really aggressive production. And I started off doing sales and recruiting, and then ultimately I moved into a leadership role and I ended up building a team of 100 people under me. So I was running 17 locations up and down the US in like my 20s.
Oh,
It
I
was
see.
crazy actually,
Yeah.
but it was awesome. Like people always feel sometimes negatively about their past experience in corporate or speak negatively about their past experiences when they get into entrepreneurialism. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like that's everything.
Yep.
That's what led you to where you are. And even
Yeah.
if you hated what you did, it was through the process of learning that you
Oh,
hated
yeah.
that helped you discover what you love.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing is most people are like, I don't know what I want to do. It's like, do something, make a
Yeah.
decision. You'll learn so
Yeah.
much more from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
no wonder we're going to get to your second book later because it's so inspiring to me in this moment of my life in terms of how to build an unstoppable team. But no wonder you're so good at building business because you work, not only did you build a team of 100 under you and ran 17 locations, the job itself dealt with staffing and
Yeah.
productivity in serving a business.
Yeah.
So you really have seen that from the inside.
Yeah.
One quick question before we move on, because I think it's a pretty interesting thing to have in your background. You were a former NFL cheerleader and then you went into the corporate world. First of all,
Yeah.
what team were you cheerleading for? And then why did you leave that and then start at the bottom and work your way up in corporate when you were having this sort of glamorous life?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So Philadelphia Eagles. So I live in the western suburbs of Philadelphia in a
That's
little
so
town called
big.
Westchester. Yeah, yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really fun. I was the youngest girl on the team. And long story short, actually, it's interesting. I'll share. When I went to college, so I had been training like my whole life. I had been dancing competitively and cheering competitively. I was like an All-American All-Star. And I was like cleaning the dance studio and, doing all sorts of crazy stuff to pay for my lessons. But I went to a really good school and I was competing at a high level. And then when I went to college, I wanted to go to the school where I was going to be in the least amount of debt because I didn't have any money. And I was like, I don't want to graduate with $100,000, $200,000 debt. So
Totally.
I went to a state school and they had like a Division III, like their
Yep.
dance team and their cheerleading teams were awful. And so I was like, okay, I have two choices here. I'm like, I'm either going to go like take a big step backwards just to keep going, or I'm just going to say F it and just like go for it. So I said F it and I just went for it. And I auditioned my freshman year in college. I was the youngest girl on the team and it was awesome. It was such a good experience, top to bottom. I learned so much. And I thought I wanted to, I went to school for communications. I thought I wanted to do something with like sports journalism or, whatever. But as I got into the business side of it, which it's interesting, they don't realize the role that cheerleaders play. They're very involved in the
Oh, yeah.
charity function and the
Oh my
business
God. You
aspect
become the
of what this is.
ambassador for the school, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
And it's
you know,
marketing too. It's like sales, marketing, ambassador. It's like
oh, it's
everything.
public speaking. I mean,
Plus,
it's
you're an athlete. Like
everything.
you have to
Yeah.
have an Olympian level endurance. You have to have the energy. You are really such a perfect cheerleader because you have the energy and
It's
you're gorgeous. So it's
thank
like,
you.
of course you're a cheerleader. So wait, so you decided I didn't want to be in debt. So you would audition for the team. So you get on the team. So where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to Westchester,
Okay. So
Westchester
you went to
University.
Westchester, but then
Yeah.
from there, you got into the NFL.
I did the NFL while I was at Westchester.
Oh my God.
I double duty. I had like 8 jobs. I was teaching aerobics. I was babysitting. I
No,
was
you did.
waitressing, going to school and cheering for the NFL. People were like, you're what? I'm like, oh yeah, that's just like one of my 5 jobs.
Okay. Which is why I always say when people are like, how come I don't have the dream job? It's like the number one reason is you're not doing enough about it.
Yes.
You're such a doer. Like,
Yes.
of course, like, and I love how you said 8 minutes ago, I would run as fast as I could up the mountain and then be like, I don't even want to be here. Because when you're a doer, you're so quick and in it
Yeah.
already. You're already
Yeah.
15 steps
Yeah.
ahead. It didn't
Yeah.
matter that it was the
Yeah.
wrong thing.
It doesn't even matter. That's
You've
the thing.
taken so much action that you figured out the right thing 6 months later when somebody else is
Yes.
still deciding if they're going to take the first step. You're like,
Yes.
I've already run up and down 8 mountains, and now I'm on the right mountain because I'm such an action taker.
That's it.
Love that about you. And you really just crystallized that when you said that you were in school. That's when you were in the NFL. Like, when did that happen? Where in the story did you know?
Yeah.
That's when it happened. Like,
Yes.
I literally lived at the top of my game in a job while I was at college.
Yes. Yes, that's just how we do things, you know? And somehow, I don't even know how, but I found these crazy humans. I find these people to join my team that are like just like me. And I understand diversity, and I do have people that have different strengths and talent than mine.
Right.
Trust me, because I can't even do the majority of stuff that they do. People ask me, I'm like, I don't even know how they do that. Yeah. I'm like, I let them do their thing, but I do attract crazy humans, like a lot of them, to join my company that are like the same way, which is really awesome. And that's what I believe makes it the most fun. Like, people will be like, what do you enjoy the most about running your business? I'm like, honestly, I love managing my team. I love running the company.
Okay. So here's the thing. You've done so much. You've lived like 4 lives already, and you know what it means to build a business. And then not only did you build business in corporate, you left and you were able to create such an incredible business for yourself, 7 figures, running stuff, helping other people create their own entrepreneurial dream lives. So tell us, what are the principles? Let's get into it, because you wrote a whole book about it. So I know you feel this very strongly, and you teach it, you have programs. Let's see if we can break down a little bit. Principles for what you call unlimited success in business and life. Let's talk about what some of those are.
Definitely. Well, I always say that people like hate me when I get into this stuff, because it's never what you want to hear. The number one thing is discipline. And that's never what anybody wants to hear. Everybody always thinks like there's someone with more money, there's someone with more friends, there's someone that's more connected than me, that's someone that had a background that's, more directly correlated with what they're doing now, right? There's all these reasons. None of that has anything to do with any of that. I have coached thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs. None of that matters. You can have someone who literally has $1 million cushion. They're going to lose it all and waste it. You can have another person that has nothing. They're scraping and rubbing pennies together, and they build a beautiful empire. So discipline is everything. And discipline, as I always say, is doing what needs to be done when you don't feel like doing it. And for most business owners, they're very, very passionate about building their business up to the point that they have to cross that line, right? Where it's like when you need to get live on camera and you don't feel like it, where you need to pick up the phone and do the follow-up with the prospect that didn't close, that could be a $15,000 sale, where you need to do that next launch even though you don't feel it's like, that's the line that most people are so passionate about financial freedom until they must cross that line to get there, right? So I would say above all else, that's like the number one thing.
Yeah. And what's amazing is what I see people do is they convince themselves of those two things, that either it's futile to begin because they didn't get the lucky cards, right? They're not from the right zip code. They don't have the they don't have the right age, the right this, whatever. So that's one. Or they do begin and then they say, but why would I put myself in that position? Because it's not going to happen anyway. Or there's all these reasons that I'm not ready or whatever it is. So we just don't do the thing. It's like, just do this hard thing to do. And people are disproportionately rewarded for doing those kinds of things where you get out of your comfort zone and because people are just missing momentum. Like you have a good idea. You just don't have momentum because you're inside your stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay. So discipline. Is there any?
I love that. Can I want to go back to something that you just said there that I think is so powerful. Can I do that just for 1 second?
Oh my God. I love it. Who's podcasting now?
Yeah.
I love
it. So the momentum thing, so I'm running an event next week. We're teaching people how to create $1 million breakthrough in their business, and we're really breaking it. Like I'm talking like you will go home. And the biggest thing, that I always emphasize to entrepreneurs is, I always see people kind of saying, well, they're not even that good, or I don't even like their stuff, or, whatever. You do not have to be that good. You have to be that determined. And there's a big difference. People overthink and overplan, and they cycle in their mind for days and weeks and months and years, and they don't do this because they're not ready yet. And it's like, dude, you don't even have to be that good. You just have to do the damn thing. Oh, are we allowed? I don't
Damn,
know if
it's
we're allowed to do that
fine.
here.
We're
Okay.
fine with
You
damn.
know,
It's okay.
yeah. So the thing is like, just do the
Just do
freaking
it.
thing.
I
Do the
know.
thing.
I know. I
And,
hear it.
and I want to couple that with, you have to do enough of it and do it consistently enough to actually see a result. Like I see people, they come and they have all this excitement and all this energy and all this momentum for like a month, right? But the people that you see consistently rise and they continue to rise and you're baffled by their success, you're like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
They are executing the fundamentals consistently, frequently,
Yep.
and they're improving a little bit as they go.
Yep.
They're not superhumans. They just have the staying power and the momentum, like you said, because they're staying in action no matter how imperfect it is, versus staying in theory over analyzing.
And that piece, what you just said, is so
Yeah.
part of it. That one word you just used, no matter how imperfect it is, because
Yeah.
like you admitted right out the gate, you're like, I did this. I was like, wrong mountain. This, like,
Yeah.
so this piece about being imperfect,
Mhm.
this is the only way through it. There is no one who's going to be like, yeah, I woke up and I was Mozart. Boom. Like, no, he had to sit at the piano for hours and make these mediocre things until finally you're like, that's it. That's the perfect sonata, right? So
absolutely.
What are the things that you think are, you said you have to do those fundamentals over and over. What are some of those fundamentals in business?
Yeah. I mean, number one, just serving your freaking heart out every single day. You know, if you look back, you know, we're doing millions of dollars online now in my business. You know, I've been creating free videos consistently for, 6 years. I have more videos than anyone can count that don't have a heart on them. They don't have a like on them. They don't have a lot of views on them, but I've been doing it and doing it. And I never micromanaged one thing that I was doing. I was like, these are the right things to be doing. So serving, right? Delivering valuable content, showing up consistently. I always say mic time. So you're in front of the camera, you're in front of the microphone, you're interacting with people in your audience, you're in the DM, right? Profit producing activities that are actually going to carry you forward versus those behind the scenes things that are really easy to spend weeks, months, and years. You're always working on the website. You're doing all these techie things behind the scenes that no one sees and no one cares about but you, that's never going to move the ball forward. So when you think about that execution of the fundamentals, it's like you're hosting consistent conversion events, whether that conversion event is a live stream, a webinar, I like to call it a livenar, a launch, whatever it is, you're making offers to your audience consistently. So on one hand, you're serving. You're always nurturing your audience. You're always building and growing your audience. And then you're coming back around and you're saying, hey, now I'm going to extend you the invitation to bring this work full circle with me, and doing that consistently. I look at so many entrepreneurs now out there that, like, you could scroll through their social media for months. You have no idea what they do. Yeah. Not a darn clue. There's no offer. There's no program. There's no package to buy. And this is kind of the madness that's happened online, I think. So, you show up consistently, you deliver the content, you interact and engage with your audience, right? You deliver conversion events, and you follow through on your promise, right? You follow through on your promise, right? You work every single day to get better at following through on your promise. And if you live those three things as an entrepreneur online today, you're there for the taking. You're crushing, because there's not a lot of people that are doing those three things. Yeah. Showing up consistently and over delivering, 100%. Having consistent conversion events, and then following it up by delivering on their promise.
Right. 100% true. The first one, so good, because I think people, you just kept saying, like, you got to put things out there. Even when you didn't have a heart on a video, you made the next one. You didn't say, oh, no one liked it, I didn't get 15,000 views. You made the next one, which means you tolerated that you weren't going to get an immediate win. You tolerated that. You kept knowing, okay, I don't have to be perfect. I'm not going to take one hit to the jaw and go, no one liked me. No, I'm going to allow myself to become a master of this, and I don't need it immediate. So that's brilliant. And it really shows that you let go of the shame right? It's not about shame. You're like, I just need to get better and I need to do the work and I'm going to give myself grace,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to needing it like perfect or else you're an idiot. No one watched it. So that's big. The second piece is, in terms of once you've been nurturing and doing things consistent, I think the second piece is really hard for people. Even if they've been consistent with nurturing, people have a very hard time asking. Okay. So putting out an offer, people think sales is sleazy. They think in some way they're doing something that's duplicitous. How do we get behind knowing that because putting yourself out there in that way it feels challenging. It feels like it's so much easier to nurture than it is to do that kind of offer. What's a way that we can start to think about that so that we can do it with grace?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to complete your work in the world. I believe we were all put on the planet with a purpose, and it's so rare and so extraordinary that any of us even have the opportunity to be entrepreneurs. You know, there's billions of people that don't have clean drinking water. There is, you know, a fourth of the humans on the planet that don't have working electricity. So the fact that you are even in a position to have the blessing to be an entrepreneur and the passion in your heart that was instilled there to fulfill the purpose for which you were put here, there's also a responsibility for you to have enough bravery and enough care and concern for the people that you're here to serve, to extend an invitation to them to help them to complete that transformation. If you don't extend that invitation and you don't show them how they can take that next step, they can consume all that free nurture content in the world, but they're never going to get that big transformation that you were supposedly put here to help people with. So it's really about completion, and it's about you actually fulfilling your purpose. And I do feel that if you are an entrepreneur, you have a responsibility to complete that invitation and to help people to actually get results, right? And so if you're here to help people get results, it starts by you showing them how and what is that method and how can you help them, and then inviting them to take that step.
That's so beautiful. So it's really not about asking. It's really about, I need to serve this person and I need to get busy getting this person the result. Yeah. So I got to get out of my stuff, right? Yeah. So that I can actually help.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's brilliant. I think that there are ways to do that though, where we can really make the time useful. Like I know Amy Porterfield, who's somebody who I admire, when she was on the show, she was like, when you do a live-inar, right? She called it a webinar, but I love your word, live-inar. Like literally give them value, right? Like legit,
yes.
like give so much that people are like, I have to pay for this thing. Yeah. I can't imagine what I would get, right? And that, if you're really doing that and you know who you're serving and you know what they need and you know you're going to give it to them, how could you not give it to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So I think that it's really about like hearing it the way that you just said and then going out and doing it. How often do you think is too much? Like, I think people are still like, okay, I got it, but I can do that once a year. Otherwise I'm going to be annoying. Otherwise I'm going to be bothering my audience.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest problem. That's why most entrepreneurs fail. You know, it takes 10,000 hours to master anything. That's proven, right? And so, you know, if you look at launching, for example, most entrepreneurs might launch once or twice a year, pitifully, and they get almost no results. And then they wait a whole nother year before they try again.
Right.
And there's it would take literally a full lifetime to ever have a good launch at that rate. So I think you have to really come out of your like theoretical idea and really come down to planet Earth and ask yourself, you know, how many times are you going to need to execute on something? If an athlete, you know, playing a professional sport runs a drill thousands and thousands of times before they play in one of their games, and they only play, you know, maybe 10, 12, 14 games in a season, that's very similar to the way that an entrepreneur should be training for their sport, right? And, you know, if you're only playing one game a year, you're showing up one time and you're going to do a launch, it will literally, you will be out of business before you will ever have a profitable launch. And so, you know, I recommend that people be doing a conversion event every 6 to 8 weeks. I feel like as an entrepreneur, you need to practice and you need to build those muscles and you need to execute, not theoreticize, but execute in order to perfect whatever model you're utilizing. I teach the live launch model. I'm obsessed with it. I teach, workshops on it every 6 weeks in my private group. But whatever launch mechanism that you've decided on that you're going to use, it's really, really important that you're executing it consistently, because there's just no way that you're ever going to become good enough if you don't make the commitment to practice.
100%. That is so well said. I mean, if you sit it out and only play 3-4 games a year, like no one's ever even going to heard of you because you didn't have enough time to practice. Okay. Let's talk a little bit live launch method, because this is something that you do a workshop on. In fact, you have a free workshop coming up on it. Let's talk about it for a second, because some people might be like, what does that mean? And what's the difference? This is what I love. Can't I just tell people on Instagram in one post that I have cake for sale? Can't I just tell people to come to my dance studio one time in an email? Tell us why it's more important to do things live and why it's not as effective to just send an email.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a couple of things. First of all, I think that consumers have moved into a new phase and cycle, which happens every couple of years. I think that we've gone through a lot of cycles of internet marketing over the last couple of years, but as things moved more and more to automation, and as people have become more and more connected, people feel more and more disconnected than ever.
Yes.
And so, scaling intimacy is the most important thing for any online entrepreneur to master in order to make millions of dollars online. And the live launch method came about because I had gone through all the courses, all the programs on webinars. I did the PLF. I did everything known to man. Every launch I ever did failed, every single one. And about 2.5 years ago, I went to my team and I was like, we're not doing it anymore. We are getting rid of all technology. We are getting rid of all automation. We are taking our entire launch model. We're throwing it out the window. We're getting rid of all this stuff. We're going back to basic marketing and sales principles. We're going direct to our audience live.
Yep.
And we took some of the principles that do work, teaching, serving, right? Helping people gain momentum. And we came up with a structure that we teach where you take people through a series of free content, and then ultimately you move them into the offer. You give them milestones of action along the way so that they're getting a result for free going through your workshop. And you can call it whatever you want. Some people call it a challenge, a workshop, a mini series, a boot camp, a launch pad. There's 100 different ways you can phrase it. But the bottom line is, you take them through a free series of content. You deliver everything live. It is so simple. It is so easy. We teach every single nuance of what to do to convert. And then ultimately you can convert 50, 100 people at a time in a period of, you can take people from cold to close in, 5 days, 9 days, whatever it is. And we teach a lot of different models. We'll teach a 5-day, challenge model. We'll teach a one-time live-inar. We'll teach a 2-day, 48-hour blitz. So the live launch is really flexible. But the bottom line is people want to connect with you. They want to have two-way interaction. They want to feel like you're a human, right? And I think all of these other mechanisms, these antiquated models from, pre-live streaming that are still really focused on the email automation series and the webinar slide decks and all that crazy stuff, people are over it. They've been through it. They've been there. They've done it. And a lot of that stuff doesn't add value. And it really doesn't. People spend 30 minutes talking about themselves and all their clients and their success stories and then move into an offer. And people are just over it. It's just, it's time for something new. It's time for something new.
My God. Mic drop. After mic drop, there was 17 things that came out of your mouth that each one of those can be a book. You said one of the first things out of your mouth when you started discussing this, you were like, it's scaling intimacy. Boom. That needs to be a book. Scaling intimacy. That's your thing. That's amazing. But that really is what you're teaching. And that's really what you came back around to. This is what people need. Okay. And I sort of like you ran up and down different mountains, but only when I figured out my live launch strategy. And I can't believe I'm only meeting you now because I know you could help me 10x what I do. But if you ask my team, I realized I'm not doing slideshows. That's ridiculous. People would be like, is she really here? Is this pre-recorded? And I was actually there. And I'm like, I haven't even figured out evergreen. I'm sitting here and you're not even in it because you think you're not here.
I know.
Doesn't work. When I eventually figured out a live launch challenge system, we started making $2 million a year on this one particular course, which was like, oh my God, right? Just because people so crave having you show up. So you are offering a free workshop on a live launch.
I am. So our next one kicks off October 28th.
You guys, you have to hear it. You have to. Amazing. Okay. Gosh, there's so many cool things. So I can't believe there's more. Cause like, I would be so satisfied if like, this is all we had to talk about. Cause my mind has been blown, but there's more. So you went ahead and you wrote another book. It's called Bigger Than You, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Building an Unstoppable Team. Tell us, what is the thing that made you want to write this book?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of crazy. So what happened was for years, I've been working with, my clients on how to integrate sales and marketing systems into their business to scale. So the same thing kept happening over and over and over again, which was that like we would work with them for a while, they would grow, and then they would like freak out and melt down because they didn't have a team. They didn't know how to manage a team. They didn't know how to grow a team.
Right.
And, and so I started to realize that a huge part of my calling and what I needed to be doing in the world was teaching entrepreneurs how to build a winning team, a team that produces profit every single month, a team that is committed and loyal and invested and does the right things and represents the brand the right way. And, I realized that there's like a huge stigma in the entrepreneurial community around building team. Like a lot of entrepreneurs have massive resistance to team because most people, I was very lucky. This is all I did. My whole career was making people successful. That's all I did. So for me, what came very natural and seemed very obvious to me when I came to entrepreneur world was you build a team. Like I started building a team right away. Right. And so I like saw the benefits of that, whatever. But most people don't, that's not their history. That is not their reality. That has not been their experience, right? And so what I realized is there's like no resources, none. There's no books on entrepreneurial leadership in companies. There's no resources. There's no anything. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to create like the guidebook. And that's what Bigger Than You is. It is the guidebook to teach entrepreneurs every step of the process to build a winning team that makes you money. I teach the 4X method, which means that for every person that you bring in within their first year, you get them producing at least 4 times each month. They're bringing in 4 times what they cost the company in new revenue each month. And then as they're with you longer and longer and longer, you just keep scaling that up. And so I wanted to give people a methodology and a really specific system to follow that could make this possible for them, because I want people to have freedom. And even if you learn how to do sales and marketing, but you don't have a team, you just created a really stressful job for yourself.
Oh my God, I totally get this. And what I think is amazing, I know so many people of the show are probably thinking, wait a minute, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm just starting out. Why do I need a team? Here's the thing, you guys. I think that we make things harder than they need to be.
Yes.
Because we don't understand that there are people who have skills that we don't have to be masters of, who can then come along and actually help us execute. If you're the creative right now, if you're listening to the show and you want to open the yoga studio, you want to make the cupcakes, you want to build a pottery business, wouldn't it be great if you could stay in your zone of genius and be the visionary and have someone come along who gets sales conversions and marketing and understands content development so that you don't have to work so hard? Because you're right. Leaving your job that is sucking the life out of you just to become your own worst boss. This is not a thing. This is not what we're trying to get people to do.
No.
So,
this is not a thing.
It's not a thing. And that's why everyone who's listening, I feel like I wanted to put it in this frame of reference for them to hear, because I think people would think, Kath, I'm just starting. I don't need a team, number one. Or why would I even think of having a team? I'm a solopreneur and there's so much like glory in that. It's like, no, you're going to be exhausted. I personally every year of my business realize, God, I've been working harder than I need to be. Oh my God, there's a person who does that. Oh my gosh, that would be so helpful. It would allow me some space to really go ideate, because for you as a visionary, for you as an entrepreneur, your best thing to be doing is either doing the thing or go take a walk for 45 minutes, because you're going to come back with an amazing idea. Get that walk in. Steve Jobs got a walk in twice a day. You need to get a walk in. But it sounds like, Kelly, what you're saying is, this is like, it sounds hard to believe that every person on your team is going to 4X what it is that you pay them. It sounds like, wait, does that mean everyone you hire is a salesperson? That can't be, because you need other kinds of people. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest things that I work on in my Legacy Leaders program. So once we get people, into the multiple six figures in our lower level programs and they're ready to start scaling, they move into Legacy Leaders. And that's where we really actually work with them in a hands-on sense to implement the bigger than you model. And, one of the biggest questions that people always have is like, yeah, I don't have salespeople on my team. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Whatever way you frame up, like my accountability coaches make sales every single week. And their job is to do accountability coaching with the people that are already our clients. How do they make sales every single week? Because they're upselling people into our next level programs. They're getting referrals that are then being passed to our sales and marketing team, and they're doing split commissions on them. They're getting renewals as people's contracts come up and they get them signed up for the next year. So it doesn't matter what the role is. My operations manager makes sales. She does reactivations almost every single week. So every single role in the company has some type of natural interface with something that they do that should be creating. You have a graphic design person. What is that graphic design person doing with your Instagram stories, with your Instagram feed to get you additional consultations? Are you looking at the conversion rates on the pages that they're building? Are you managing them to get that up and then tracking what the ROI is and looking at how you can take them from, okay, you cost me $3,500 a month. You're going to make me an extra $12,000 a month by getting 15 more consults on the books for my sales team. So you could look at every position in the company. Yes. And what I always say is it's fascinating because, I think as entrepreneurs, we take so much responsibility for sales and marketing in our businesses because we realize in order to eat, that's what we have to do. Yeah. But we forget when it comes to employees, it's like, well, it's them. But it's never them. And that's one of the things I write about so much in the book and that I do a lot of teaching on. It's called Look in the Mirror Leadership, because everything happening in your company and everything that your employees are doing is just a reflection back of the way that you're leading them. So the way that you design someone's metrics and their KPIs and their job description is literally, they're just reflecting back to you whatever you're holding them accountable for.
100%. If I'm holding my team,
that's all that it is. It is literally that easy.
Yep.
And so you could take an action today and you could see a change in your company tomorrow. And that's the part that people are like missing, when it comes to leadership, right?
Oh, so good. I had a friend talk to him the other day and I told him something that was stressful about my team. And he said, you're going to have to lead your way through it. And I said, wait, I'm talking about them. And he goes, I'm talking about you. Lead your way through it. I said, lead my way through it. This is what's going on, this, and this. And he goes, and that's what they have been taught and how they need to show up. What are you going to do to lead? And it's always. So that means this is why I love you, because you started by saying, the first question I asked you, your answer was, well, I'm going to tell people something that they don't want to hear, right?
Yeah.
And then another thing you said.
Unfortunately, I have really bad news.
Yeah, exactly. And then another time you went to answer a question, you're like, I'm not going to be soft about it. And it comes back here as well, which is maybe the people in your life, whether it's, some people who are listening are like, my wife's the only one who helps me. Even better. Lead your way through it. Help her, help you, right? But maybe it's possible the people who right now are there, they actually could help better if you could turn it on a dime and give them more in terms of what you just said, Kelly. You were like, this is a measurable, attainable thing that we can look at. 15. Okay. You're a graphic design person, figure out 15 more consultations. Like, okay, I can measure that. I can actually measure it. So that is brilliant. And so how many people do you think is sort of like ideal to have on a team? Or do you think that it can be as big as possible? How many people do you have on your team?
Yeah, we have about 14 on my team, and
Okay.
we hire every month. So as we do a launch, we can max an accountability coach in a launch. So we can, so we're constantly hiring.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what's really important is you want to minimize span of control to about 5 people for each leader in your company. And that is important to understand. So just like you were saying, people listening are like, oh, I'm a solopreneur, I don't need to be thinking about building a team. Yes, you do. Because when you're ready for a team, it's too late. And then when you go to start hiring a team, by the time you get a team, your business has now slipped backwards and you lost a year worth of work because you weren't ready to hire. The same thing happens with leadership. It takes about 5 years to develop a high performance leader in an organization. And what happens is once you get to that critical mass and you're hiring and you're scaling really quickly, and this is, I tell people all the time, like our biggest challenge right now, I'm literally like bribing my team. I'm like, I will pay you $2,000 to get me a referral right now. Like we can't hire fast enough. I'm like, go find me another person. So the thing is your problem doesn't become how do you sell fast enough. Your problem becomes how do you hire fast enough. But if you start having people's span of control go beyond 5 people, it gets really
What does that mean?
difficult.
Span of control go beyond, meaning that each person shouldn't be dealing with more than 5
managing
customers?
More than 5 people
under
5
them?
people in your team. No, every business is different in terms of how many customers, a person can manage and that type of thing. So like our accountability coaches, they each manage 100 customers. They have 100 clients that they do accountability coaching with. But what I'm saying is as you build your team,
got it.
This within the size. Yeah. So it's really interesting because when it comes to people and team, you have to get out of your head. You have to. And I think, so many times people are like so head down, like I got to go get a client that's so far out of my realm in terms of thinking about, hiring leaders for my company. And it's like, if you don't think that way, you'll never get there, because once you get to the point where you could potentially be there, if you haven't been planning and working and taking steps towards that for years at that point, it's going to be almost impossible for you to take the steps that you need to when you need to in order to be able to keep moving forward. And you're constantly back and forth.
As you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, I cannot believe she's saying all of this for free on a podcast. Kelly Roach, listen to me. I talk to a lot of smart people. You haven't even seen an ounce of what you're going to do in this world. You're
thank you,
Kelly. No, I'm up to my ears in billionaires, Howard Schultz and all they're amazing humans. You are something else. And you're talking and I'm like, she cares. She's brilliant and she's so generous. What the heck? You're saying all this to my audience for free. I'm like,
thank you.
My whole body is like lit up from you. So here's another question. You talked before about incentivizing for a second. Is that a model that you believe in? Because I think a lot of the people who are listening right now are going to be like, Kath, I can't hire a team. I'm trying to make these 100 cupcakes. Are you talking about giving people on your team? Do you suggest doing things where people get commissions, or do you suggest
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Listen, here's the thing. I tell my team members that my commitment to them is that they will have financial freedom to the same level and extent that my own clients will. I told my first hire, Stephanie was my very first hire like 5-6 years ago. And I said, you will make $1 million working for me. I guarantee you that. I said, you need to stick with me. You need to trust me. She's been promoted like 5 times already and received many salary increases. And she makes very, very good money on commission because she's a high performer. And I said, we'll get you there. And she has steadily and consistently progressed there. But here's the thing. Listen, guys, if you are not willing to have skin in the game, I tell my clients, I'm like, you can't afford Facebook ads. I'm like, really? Go get a part-time job. You can't afford a VA. Go sell some stuff in your garage. Like, how bad do you freaking want it? If you don't want it bad enough to sacrifice, guys, then you don't deserve it, because there are people out there that are willing to. That's why there's the 1% and then the 99. And I have a whole chapter in my book that says, it's titled literally, Stop Resenting the 1% and Join Them, which anybody can. But you have to be willing to have skin in the game. You have to be willing to take risks without proven guarantees. And you got to invest.
What you just said, I have never heard anyone say, which is, I said before the word generous. It is so generous, but novel. I don't know what the word you just said. I tell my team, I want them to have the same financial freedom as the people who are my clients. How is it possible that anyone I've ever met hasn't said that? What the heck? Like, that is so brilliant. If you're in a business where you're helping people to thrive and to succeed, you want that for people you don't know, and that's what your business is predicated on, but you don't want to ensure your own team, the people who show up and sweat for you, that they're going to be financially free. You're the only person I've ever heard say that. That is no wonder they want to work hard for you. You're basically training them to grow with you. So your success is their success.
Yeah. And it is. And if you meet them and you see us interact with one another, I say so frequently that my interactions with my team are so much more collaborative, as if it's our business, than it is directive, as if it's my business. Although I'm by far and away probably one of the hardest managers and toughest coaches to work for internally in the world. But I groom people and I elevate people. And going back to what you just said there, the reason why that mentality is so important for everyone listening, and why I want you guys to take this home, put it in your pocket and keep it with you and never let it go, is if you are not willing to pour into people with your heart and your mind and your soul and give to them what you are expecting them to give to you, why in the F would you think that they're going to do that?
100%. That makes
sense. So my job every single day is to work as hard as I possibly can to help my team to succeed. I am here to serve and support and elevate them so that they can serve and support and elevate the business. And so when you look at that from that perspective, an investment perspective versus an extraction perspective, people ask me, I literally once a day, or I have people come to me and say, how do you get your team to work like that? They're freaking animals. I'm like, because we're in this together.
Yeah. And they have clarity. They have clarity on what you want from them. You support them. They're basically getting coaching at the same time, and you're incentivizing them so that if they win, it's not the same salary. It's like, there's a perk, there's an incentive, there's a reason to grow, which is amazing. Now, let me ask you this question, because a lot of people are going to be sitting here thinking about this, feeling so lit up. Do you need the person who already knows all this, or do you just need the person who has the passion? And if you're a good leader, can you train them to be this way? Or do you need to go find the person who answers the ad, who says, I know how to do that?
Yeah, that's such a good, I just want to talk to you. Can we just I just want to keep this going for a year. So you're asking all the questions. This is what I want. I just want people to know this stuff. I wish I could take it out of my brain and just give it to you guys. That's the biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs making. They want to skip the line. And you know what? You don't get to skip the line. It's great if you can go hire someone that comes in like a little unicorn and, they can walk into your business and do everything. And, they just so happen to be magical and they just get it all and they know it all. And they just so happen to want to work for you.
Right.
That would be great. Right. In all of our dream worlds. But taking shortcuts in life never tends to pay off. And I have nothing against hiring skilled people. I just hired a VP in my company. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying don't go hire talented, experienced people. However, the vast majority of my team members were all hired entry level, ground up. I poured my everything into teaching them everything that I know and working to elevate them from the ground up and grow them into the business leaders that they are today. And I think a desire to take shortcuts around that process of that coming togetherness of building a team is many times why that stickiness factor, why that loyalty, why that trust, why that bond doesn't exist there, because you try to skip the freaking line. So not to say that there's anything wrong with hiring experienced people, but there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place.
That makes so much sense, because like, for God's sakes, if the person already was the magical unicorn, they're not looking for a job with you. They're figured out their own, right?
And you better question it if they are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's brilliant. And it gives so much, I don't want to say the word hope, because hope to me is not a word that I love. I love certainty. It gives certainty to the people who are listening right now, because guys, you don't have to have this person who has all this sales knowledge under their belt to help you with those cupcakes or to help you build that new yoga studio. You could just take a person who has the enthusiasm and the dedication to wanting to grow, and together you can figure out. It's amazing. Okay. As we're closing, which we're closing right now in the next 2 minutes, tell us about your podcast. Tell us this amazing word, unstoppable. You use it all the time. So your show is called Unstoppable Radio. When did you start it? Why did you start it?
Yeah, so Unstoppable Success Radio, we just celebrated our 500th episode. So last week was 500. It was episode 500. I'm so freaking proud. I started Unstoppable. Yeah, so I started Unstoppable Success Radio in 2015. What? And I told Stephanie, who was back, she was my first like full-time internal hire. I told her back then, I said, 15 years from now, Stephanie, 15 years from now, we're going to be in the top 10 of iTunes for business. I said, you watch. And I always joke about that, because I said, who else do you know that talks in 15-year increments? But I was dead serious. So that was kind of how I was thinking when I started the show. So Unstoppable Success Radio it's 20 minutes a week, and it's basically the most powerful 20-minute download I can possibly give listeners each week of strategy, mindset, tips, and tools to build, grow, and scale your business online. And it's my legacy. It's what I'm, leaving. I'm giving to the world. It's free. It's I've never missed a week. I love it.
I cannot. I don't get it. I mean, the fact that you're doing as much as you're doing, and then, oh, by the way, no, I'm on my 500th episode of this show and I don't miss a week. It's like, it's one thing to have enthusiasm and a pretty face and you have nice things to say. It's another thing, like, you freaking live it. You're like, no, all those things I'm saying, and then I actually do them.
Yeah. I mean, I have a great team. I mean, that's the thing. And I all hail to them, because, I dedicated my last book to them. People see what I'm doing, but what I do of what we're doing is 1% of what we're doing. The other 99% is them,
Well, you built it. So that's why it's such an amazing team. So tell us where we can find your books, where we can find your podcast, where we can find how to get in on this live launch workshop. Tell us all the things.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. So Unstoppable Success Radio is on iTunes and Stitcher and all the places that things are. And it's 20 minutes or less every single week. So that's the one thing that I'll recommend for everybody. The next live launch workshop kicks off October 28th. It's in my private group on Facebook. It's called Tribe of Unstoppables. And I do a live weekly show there. I teach live in the group every single week. Come hang out. You'll get to meet all of my team. They're friggin' bonkers. They're so much fun. They're in there. They're like maniacs. They're in there all the time. And yeah, the books are on my website, kellyroachcoaching.com.
Kelly, I don't know what to say. I'm just like completely inspired. I learned so much. I feel like this is the gift of doing this podcast, is that I get to once in a while sit down with someone and I'm like, my brain is forever changed. My heart, it has been opened. I'm so inspired by you. You should just continue to be seen and to feel what it is you put in the world. It should just keep coming back to you. And yeah, I mean, I could just go on and on. I'm so happy to have met you. Thank you for being here.
I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here. And, I want to share the work. You know, I want to help people do their thing, and you guys can do it. Whatever it is, whatever's in your heart, you can do it. So it's imperfect action. You said it so many times today, Kathy, and like that's the thing, guys, is like, it's all about imperfect action. It's about giving yourself grace,
God.
trusting the process, just putting one foot in front of the other. That's it.
Amazing. I can't believe how much you just gave to this one episode of one show that you're on. So if that says anything about the way you live your life, I'm just like, all right.
Thank you. Well, I want to get you. You need to come over. You got to. Well, I'm going to get Lindsay to get you on our show and like come hang out with us in the tribe.
I want to come hang out with you in the tribe. You're amazing.
Cool.
Have an amazing day, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Incredible.